What's up, chant? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday. We are getting tactical today. We weren't live yesterday, largely because I got back from the Geekdom GT at like 10 p.m. and then had to do Best Armies in 40k, so I was fucked. there was no way that a stream that morning was happening, but also we got to watch all of the new games yesterday. I did a video sort of late last night about that one as well. So we are we have a lot more information about 10th edition or 11th edition, excuse me, than we did previously, which is good stuff. And we're going to talk about the articles that came out both yesterday and today. There is also, I guess we'll rip this band-aid off because it's less cool than I thought it would be. There is also... Oh, excuse me, Adam. I don't need your face right here right now. This article about Orc Boys, which I was like, oh, cool. We're talking about Orc Boys and like loadouts and stuff. No, not really. It's just like 3 pictures of the kit, which I was definitely expecting a little bit more out of this article, but there's the Orc Boys, I guess. You can give them a gun. Or you can give them a knife and a pistol. Hell yeah. Good stuff, chat. Yeah, so anyway, there's Orc Boys. And don't they look nice? They look great. We love that. So let's talk about the stuff that got released yesterday. We did see Genestealer Cult pop out here and a bunch of different detachments, and we will talk about those as always, as we have done previously, alongside the video discussing the new detachments. So let's jump in there. Let's jump to the intros have been growing longer as we go through these faction focus articles. Let's go to 1 minute and 10. Orcs get weapons? They so do, chat. They so do. It's confirmed. Orcs have weapons. Let's we have that for 11th edition. Let's fucking go. All right, let's hop in. And we will lose our window. There we go. Listen to some video.
Yeah, what are the synergies?
You are an army ostensibly of guardsmen with more dynamics, and if you can't leverage those dynamics, you I think Stuart are excited for Genestealer Cult.
The intro is in fact
and
much
this
longer
is
than
a
previous.
detachment that works with probably the most common unit in the Genestealer Cult army, which is the Neophyte Hybrids. These are your bread and butter battle line troops.
Right. Yep. So we've taken in units of 10 or 20, and at times in this previous edition, we've seen 3 to 4 to 5 units of 20 Neophytes absolutely being dominant.
I think I've got
on
80
tables
at home.
Yeah, that's probably about the right number. But in your command phase, if a friendly Neophyte Hybrid unit is within a terrain area, they will heal 3 wounds. They will get 3 models back to the unit. And I don't know if you guys know this, they already do that. They already heal models.
They have a banner.
The banner in the unit. Yes, they get wounds back. If you're on an objective, you get even more wounds back.
Yeah, you could potentially go from having a unit of 10 guys that gets killed down to 1, back up to 10 in the same phase, in your command phase.
I think it does encourage you to lean into them, right? So
Really
if you take units of 10, you're probably going to get them wiped out. But if you take units of 20, enemy can remove half of that unit and you can grow it back.
Exactly right. And when you have the units of 20, you're essentially all just banking on the special weapons to do your damage. You have las guns equivalents, and then you have your seismics, your webbers, whatever version you try to take, your mining lasers. Those are the power pieces within those unit of 20 guys, and then any attached characters. And so you have a lot of ablative wounds that can keep being healed back before you actually get
the good stuff.
Remove the damage dealing portions of the unit. This is an incredible ability.
They've got a bunch of other stuff in this detachment that also combines with Neophyte Hybrids. Looking at the enhancements, we've got one which is an upgrade, which means you can give it to one of these battle line units, and it lowers their detection range.
Yes, so we've talked a lot about offensively lowering
or
increasing the detection range of units in order to activate against them better and shoot them when maybe you wouldn't be able to otherwise. This is making your units harder to shoot. This is -3 detection range, so they'll be starting at hidden or lone operative equivalent 12, and when that's on 20 models where you get perfect placement, because these are arriving from reserve a lot of the time, or if you would started on the table, this means you can hold objectives very safely early in the game whilst not having to worry about where the angles you can be seen on, the long angles, or you can arrive from reserve with perfect placement and knowledge of what can interact with you next turn.
I think a great way to use this would be to put this unit onto an objective, knowing that the enemy has to come within 12, and then
Bait.
you back it up
Yeah.
with pure strains, aberrants, combat unit of your choice.
Yep.
So I wonder, like, the open question for me with the hidden mechanic is whether or not it works when you come out of reserve. And the way they're talking certainly seems that certainly seems to be the case. Which, if that is true, is fucking nuts. Basically, any time you aren't within 15, like you don't have an objective wholly within 15 inches, your opponent can just deep strike infantry onto it, and then hold it without you being able to respond. That's fucking crazy. That's insane. If you can pay like whatever it is, 20 points to make that 12 inches, these units are wild. Not to mention the fact that they have objective secured. So like the ability to like deep strike onto an objective, be unshootable, and then obsec it sounds pretty fucking wild, dude. Wow. All right. I honestly, I kind of hope that's not the case, because I think that's going to be like the primary play pattern of the edition, is just deep striking infantry 15 inches away from you constantly, over and over and over again. Every army's going to do it. Every game. It's just going to be constant. Rapid ingress is just going to be the best stratagem in the world. Jesus.
Basically, you go, well, if you want to threaten them, you are absolutely within the threat range of my best combat units.
Yep, stage 10 up against the wall, tendril a couple of models onto the objective, whilst behind them your heavy hitters, your power pieces.
Nobody wants to move within 12 of Genestealers.
No, it's an auto. If you move within 12 of a unit that, you know, is just one unit on the other side of a wall, you're auto-charged by those Stealers. They cannot fail that charge. Yeah.
So, looking at
They can fail the charge, Adam, because Snake Eyes always fails now.
what else this detachment brings, you've also got a stratagem.
It's mostly for one-turn protection against shooting. No, it's not. It gives you the objective for free. You just take the objective. Like, you've played against like lone operative deep strikers, like Calidus Assassin or something, starts to reserve, and then rapid ingresses onto an objective outside 12. And they just, like, if there's no one, if it's the start of your turn, no enemy models are on that objective, and you don't screen it by the end of your movement phase, your opponent has it, right? And if you can do that, because remember, objectives are by definition terrain. So a unit deep striking onto an objective is by definition hidden, as long as it works that way. Every single deep striking infantry unit can always load up steal objectives, and it's even better if you have a reduced detection range. So like 5-man JPI and all these like little deep striking jump infantry squads are going to be fucking incredible, absolutely incredible, because it forces you to come forward just to deny the potential that they could rapid ingress and hide on an objective. Which I don't know. I'm a little worried about that. I do think it feels incredibly strong. We'll see.
Called Slunk from the Underbelly, and this basically gives them a version of Armor of Contempt.
This is quite funny. So this is one command point for a neophyte hybrid unit in your opponent's shooting phase when enemy unit has selected them. Range attacks at target unit have -1 incoming.
Oh, as long as every model's inside a terrain feature? All right. This does not seem like that useful of an ability, chat. Every model has to be inside terrain out of like a 21, 22-man unit. And then also you can give them -1 AP on their 5+ armor save. Okay.
Penetration. So 5 up armor save. You can be, against AP.
Yeah, Adam's like, I don't know about this one,
5
man.
up armor save. So theoretically, that
might
is
be useful
good.
to keep
On
your
the
10
20
mans
model
alive.
units, I think it actually holds value. On the 10s, maybe we'll see. It depends what you're getting shot by.
God damn, we
but
are like
against
the
in
same
the
person.
big squad, where all you really want to
Adam
do.
Camilleri and I don't think have ever been photographed at the same place. Are we literally the same person? We're just actually saying the exact same things in
Is
concert
not go
with one
below
another.
the special weapon number, so you can continue to regen and heal back your models. It's actually not bad.
And I think
Yeah, the thing is, like, if you have the 10-man in the back line, right, and then they die and they respawn, or they up down, and then you place them somewhere else. Like, if your opponent flips one like infantry sweeper onto them, and you AOC it, and they go from AP 1 to 0, and you say on 5s instead of 6s, that could keep a couple models alive. And like he's saying, you keep the icon alive, and suddenly the unit's back, and they retake the objective and they obsec it. So, like, I think those are the situations where it matters. Getting 22 guys onto an objective or onto a train feature is I have to get out of the mindset that those are exactly the same, because they're not always the same. But it seems like it would be incredibly difficult.
because terrain no longer gives you an extra pip of
Exactly right.
armor,
Yep.
actually a 5-up save is more fragile. It feels more fragile now than it did in the previous
Yeah.
edition. So being able to make those units a little bit more durable, if you really have lent into neophyte hybrids,
Yes.
put the characters in the units to give them the bonuses and the pluses to hit and whatnot, you do want to keep them alive.
I totally agree. I love this detachment. I think it's very strong for the
I doubt, chat, that the requirement, the coherency requirement for healing ends up changing. So because both the cult icon and the detachment ability trigger in your command phase, I doubt that you would be able to string them separately. So I imagine that they will all just go. They would be in coherency with the same models essentially. So like you could go 2 inches plus base out from the existing models. It's actually harder because you have to stay within the 9-inch like dome of a coherency. So if your unit's strung, it's actually really hard to reanimate into like a forward position unless your unit's like really condensed to begin with. Although there's I think a lot of people are theorizing that maybe like big giant units like 20-mans will have different coherency rules because it does feel extremely difficult to fit within the 9-inch coherency bubble. With the giant units, like they end up just being like a phalanx. You're like playing Old World, where they're just like all just nut to butt in a big brick, and they can't really maneuver anywhere, which would be unfortunate. So I could see some of those units going to 12, but it still is the case that it's going to be more difficult to string your reserves farther forward, assuming that there's the requirement to go into coherency. If there's not, that would blow my fucking mind. But yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult to get a lot of use out of the a lot of like really weird stretches out of the new healing mechanics. Yeah, Necron Warriors, I think get shafted by that for sure. Necron Warriors is like the biggest one because they would string coherency to like 20 inches, and they have to put the characters near the front now.
the bread and butter of the Genestealer cults.
Right. Well, moving on to the Heroes of the Uprising. Heroes of the Uprising is the name of the next detachment. This effectively is a way to make some of those specialist characters within the Genestealer cult army really pop. You've got a great selection of support heroes and some very good kind of assassination style heroes.
Pretty good.
They become very effective in this detachment.
So friendly Kellamorph, Locust, Reductor Saboteur, and Sanctus models get the killer keyword. Friendly killer models attacks have real ones to hit and ones to wound. So that's shooting and fighting, because of course the Kellamorph shoots a lot better than it fights, and the Locust or the Sanctus, vice versa. Reductor Saboteur pretty much only shoots. So this is a great ability, and it just kind of keeps getting better from there.
Yeah, so looking at the enhancements, the first we're going to look at is gene-tailored toxins. This is a thing that you can give to your Locust or Sanctus, and the model's attacks have +1 damage. That's either for the shooting.
+1 damage. So does the Locust, like, I guess he's an okay melee profile. 5-2-2. So he goes to 5-2-3. He gets fight first, which is like whatever. But it's like it's all attack, so it works on the Sanctus's gun, right? Goes to 4 damage. Anti-Psyker 2 is actually going to be hyper relevant because I think Psychers are going to be all over the place. And this is the version that gets the reactive move, right? Yeah. So you can have a little reactive move load up guy. Or you could have a 3 damage melee attack that's anti-infantry 3. And he... Oh, does he just like not get the oh, he can't fire Overwatch at him if he has the knife. Okay, fair enough. I mean, either of these versions are... Oh, sorry, I'm not on the data sheet. Either of these versions are pretty spooky. I think Anti-Psyker 2+ 4 damage is very relevant on what is going to be essentially a relatively inexpensive utility character, right? For the most part, they're wandering around and like doing actions and stuff, but then they're like plowing Lords of Change for 4 damage a turn. That's pretty spooky. I do think Anti-Psych, I guess it's weapon scale 3, but you're reeling ones to hit and wound, so like it's pretty consistent. And Anti-Psyker is going to be very valuable. This is also very effective, right? Because you're 2s into 3s, rerolling 1s into infantry squads, so you're good at killing like light stuff, 4+ save and 5+ save infantry. Also, the big buff. Yeah, the precision buff's huge too. Colt sniper rifle shooting a Terminator squad, and you can just put the damage on like. Well, I guess I assume that the wound allocation groups will be determined also by wound count. So if you have like a Deathwatch Terminator squad, you can choose whether you shoot the missile launcher or the shield guys, right? When you shoot a precision weapon at them, which is going to be kind of a big deal. Being able to just like plow into missile launcher guys is huge. Assuming that their defensive profiles are different, right? That's the deal. Precision went from a nothing keyword to guaranteeing character deaths. Yeah. Assuming that you can, it doesn't require like a LOS still, right? But I think in any case, precision's much more useful, even if it doesn't change how it interacts with characters. Like in, one shot precision is going to work basically the same against characters mathematically as it does now. The question is like whether or not you can do it when you can see other stuff. But the big thing is that you can, in some cases, out like particular models in a unit, right? Like you can kill bodyguard, like other components of a multi-model character unit and stuff. It's gonna be kind of sweet, yeah. So that is pretty cool.
Shooting attacks or for their combat attacks, but we think probably the combat attacks is where this really works.
I was unconvinced on this one, and Eddie was like, hold up, let me show you something. And you pulled up or showed me the Sanctus's melee abilities.
So I've got a Sanctus in my army now. Yeah. Sometimes I run 2 of them. I think they're phenomenal.
Can you precision out little guys? Probably not. The way that to clarify, the way that attack allocation works in the new edition, and this was all talked about on the live stream yesterday, for those who don't know, is that when you receive successful wounds from an attack, you take your unit and you break it down into all the different defensive profiles. So you break it down into, if I have like a unit with a support character and a regular character, I'll have three defensive categories. And then I order them however the defender wants. So if I say here, I have my bolter guys. Here's a good example. It's like I have a unit, like a Deathwatch unit, that has bolter guys, storm shield guys, and a character. The character always orders last in the sequence, and then anyone else in the unit, I can order however I, as the defender, want. So I can say, I'm going to put all my bolter guys and first, and then all my storm shield guys. And then you roll all the saves for that attack profile, and you go from lowest. You start with lowest, and one by one you assign saves to each of those defensive categories until that category is dead. So if I rolled 10 saves and I rolled 5 1s and 2s, and because I stacked the bolter guys first, they take all the 1s and 2s, and then I have like a bunch of 4+, and because I stacked the storm shield guy next, then the storm shield guy would take the 4+, assuming all the bolter guys are dead. And that's just how it goes. The benefit of precision, at least, is they haven't given us the actual roll, but this is how they described it working on the live stream, is that it lets the attacker make that determination. So you can choose to either put the character guy first or the bolter guy first, right? Instead of the storm shield guy first, instead of the bolter guys, however you want to do it. Which means that if you have units with multiple different defensive profiles, precision weapons can target them out. However, if your whole unit is identical, if I'm playing like 5 intercessors and a sergeant, because they're all the same defensive profile, it's all one group. And so as the defender, you would just take those, you would assign those casualties. So if you're talking about like special weapons, unit champions, like special war gear guys, like icons and stuff, those will most likely not be separable from the rest of their unit. However, if you have a guy with a special war gear ability and a storm shield, for example, then you could order that in a different sequence. I think a good example is like Masters of the Maelstrom or like Wardens of Ultramar, where everyone's like very slightly different, right? You're like invuln save, not invuln save, T3, T4. 4 to 3 wounds. And I think they would all be different defensive categories. And if you hit them with a precision weapon, you just get to stack them however you want. So you're like, I'm going to kill the apothecary guy. I'm going to kill Garion, the axe guy, and then, Huron, and then your legionnaires, and then put the T3 3-wounders at the bottom, which is like super powerful. Yeah, we do. It is true. We don't know if wounds matter. Yeah. But saving throws absolutely matter. The example they gave, they had the same toughness characteristic, but different the saves and wound counts on the models in the unit. It was Gemini. It was Celestine, the Gemini Superior, and a Zephyrum squad in the example they gave. And those are all different save characteristics and wound characteristics, but Celestine's character keyworded, so she had to be in a separate category. So we don't know necessarily if you have a bunch of people that are all different wounds who all have the same save, whether those will be in the same categories. But if you have different save and invuln save, for sure, certainly you would be in different save categories. And so precision could potentially like flip around. Snipe out aspiring sorcerers and underseers. Yeah, there is the potential there, assuming that wounds count matters. The other open question right now is how random damage works in that assignment. I imagine that because the damage gets assigned after the saving throw one at a time, that you still have to like slow roll out all the damage, which kind of sucks. But we'll see if that ends up getting cleaned up a little bit. Well, I don't know. Does this mean you can snipe out a wolf guard, sergeant, or a aspiring sorcerer? So yeah, potentially is the answer. Essentially, we need the full wording of the rules because the little diagram that they showed doesn't have all the details in it. It just gives you an example of a wound allocation phase, which is neat, and is cool. Will devastating wounds be saved to the end of each weapon group or the end of an activation? Great question. I don't know, is the answer to that. We'll have to find out. I don't have the full rulebook yet. We just have the diagrams.
Mobile character killers. They already have 6 attacks at damage 2, anti-infantry 3+.
These guys just
you can make that 3 damage attacks now.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the range of units you can start to threaten become, the blade guards, terminators, custodians, things like that. And moving from 2 damage to 3 damage, all of a sudden basically means instead of needing to get 3 wounds through to kill most characters, you only need to get 2 wounds through to remove almost up to and including Space Marine captains.
Correct. You're also re-rolling once to hit, once to wound on that profile as well, making it very consistent.
I already love this unit.
I was impressed. I'm straight up impressed. You have sold me, mate.
So there's a really nice stratagem.
I think I'm definitely. I might be in the knife camp the more I think about it. The other thing is like, you have deep strike baked in, right? So like, these guys could just rapid ingress into a weird spot and then just run up and stab your dudes. And it's going to be like super tough to stop, I think. Or they're just like killing a bunch of infantry. The other thing too, and we talked about this during the live stream, and I think I don't know if people appreciate exactly how impactful this is going to be, but it seems to me like looking at the terrain layouts, single entity utility or single entity disruption units are going to be crazy strong. The reason for that is that when you consolidate in on an objective in 11th edition, you can go in any direction. You just have to end the consolidation as long as there isn't another unit you can engage. You have to end the consolidation in range of the objective, so just touching the terrain template. So in a lot of cases, what you can do with like a lictor or what were some of the examples that we had yesterday? Like a combi weapon lieutenant, right? Like sort of Space Marine jump back captain. All these like little like 1-man units who can run in and just like kill 5 guys. You can hide them in the line of sight blocking elements of the terrain because they're only one model and they're little babies. You can like run up, you can charge 5 scouts, like proc all your abilities, one-shot them, and then step behind the wall and protect yourself. Now you can be charged. There's no 1-inch wall screening anymore. But you force your opponent to come into you. And I think that units like this that are little tiny single entity high impact attackers are actually going to be fucking sick. because of that interaction. I think the ability to keep them safe from most shooting on the turn in which they engage is fucking awesome. So especially if you have enhanced pile and consolidate moves. If you go 6 inches after that, you can go almost anywhere and you go crazy. So if you're like Tyranids, you overrun or something, and a last rip Tyranid Prime goes in, kills 5 Space Marine Scouts, and overruns and moves 6 inches, they can go anywhere on that template. We don't know if they're hidden or not, but they can like hide in the L's, right, to actually be out of line of sight. And I think that's a potential play pattern is very valuable. The Gravis Captain chat. He's got 2 fists and he's ready to use them. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Let's go.
That goes with this detachment as well. It is living up to the legend, and this interacts with Battle Shock.
Yes, this is one command point, and each visible friendly Battle Shock Genestealer cult unit within 12 of your unit is no longer Battle Shock. So you'll be able to unbattle shock en masse from the Genestealer cult portion, which is
that's
really
actually kind of sick. That's really fun. You're playing Tyranids with Genestealer cults, and they Shadow of the Warp, and you roll fucking 8-up or 9-up leadership on your whole army, and your whole army runs away, and then the Kellermorph like shoots a gargoyle to death, and is like, look, they're not that strong, and everyone on battle shocks. That's super cute. I don't know how often that's gonna come into play because you have to kill something with your character, and then you're like, the character also has to not be battle shocked at the same time, right? So if it's like a pulse battle shock effect, they have to not be affected by it, and then they have to be sequenced in the activation to the point where they do sort of unbattle shock in a way that matters. But because you have to retake battle shock tests every turn now, being able to automatically unbattle shock and alleviate the requirement to re-battle shock is a big deal, especially since a lot of like GSC stuff uppy downies and goes, it is destroyed and goes into reserve and things. And so being able to clear those conditions before you remove them from the battlefield is a big deal before they come back in. Not that being destroyed and respawning will remain you battle shocked, but when you like up down, you retain battle shocked, at least in the current edition. So are there some killers with precision? Yeah, I mean, we just talked about the Sanctus at great length. Right, like all of his weapons are precision, and very good as well. So if you can kill a character, that's pretty good, but I think a lot of times it's going to be like a Reductus Saboteur, or it's a Kellermorph, and they're shooting like the last couple models in a unit to death, since you just have to destroy a unit. Either you destroy a character model with a precision attack, or if you destroy a unit. Yeah, it does require that the killer is not battle shocked, and like the battle shock is relevant, right? It's already past your scoring step, so or most scoring step. Some of your missions will require actions, and unbattle shocking during your shooting phase, for example, is very valuable. But I don't know. I think this is a cute ability. I don't think it's that great, but I do think it's incredibly cute.
Battle shock is really going to allow you to avoid all the pitfalls. Continue to score all your points, use all your incredible stratagems, and then keep the damage flowing.
So the idea with this detachment really is to sprinkle a bunch of these characters throughout the army, some of the assassins, some of the saboteurs, that sort of thing, and then if the battle starts to go against you, you start taking some battle shocks. The presence of them can bolster those forces. You can keep on scoring even though your troops are being depleted.
Correct.
Well, I guess that's true, chat. I didn't think about that. If locusts are killers that can join units, whereas no one else can, right? Everyone else is a lone operative. Oh, that's cute. The detached ability does only work on killer models, though. So it does require that you care about attaching a locust to things. But assuming that these guys are a support character, and we'll see if like the requirement that they attach alongside like a Magus or something gets alleviated. If that ends up being the case, and you can dual attach these guys with like Biophagus, this detachment's actually kind of nuts. The problem is that you're attaching them alongside a model who like buffs guns typically, and so you're like, well, I can bring my melee character, my primarily melee like defensive character, to buff my ranged units, which is not very helpful. So you never really saw these guys. But if they change their leadership section, which they will have to because of this new support rules, I could for sure see them being more useful. But we'll see. This is Eldar. Go back.
And of course, unbattle shocking a unit is, of course, you have a command point to auto pass a battle shock. But once you are battle shocked, becoming unbattle shocked is kind of difficult. You just have to pass the test or use a mechanic like this. It's actually quite rare to, friendly battle shock Genestealer cultures within 12. There's quite a large area of effect to unbattle shock units in. It's actually the biggest one that we've seen so far in all of the attachments we've reviewed.
So the last one we're going to look at, the final generation of Genestealers, the Pure Strain Brood Swarm. This is a detachment that basically makes your Pure Strain Genestealers the assault specialist of your army.
Correct.
Amazing. And there's some great...
This is almost
combos in here.
certainly good just because every list has fucking Pure Strains in it, because they're just like, you need them for infantry sweeping. Also, one thing that I think we or at least I crocked while we were watching the live streams yesterday is that because there's no more wall screening, and the fights tend to be kind of at this like knife range of like 12-ish inches, 14-ish inches. Small, like independent disruption units, like 5-man assault units, are really good. In the Liam Vissel and Richard Sigler game, they basically both like swapped each expansion objective multiple times because they would just like trade 5-man like combat units across the midboard, across the no man's land. Because it's really easy to close that distance. It's very difficult to block that charge out. And a lot of times what you have to do is like move forward into those terrain features to actually clear the enemy units that are contesting them. And so I think units like Pure Strain Genestealers are going to be really strong in this new edition. I think that the time of like little combat units, like little disruption combat units has arrived. Where these units that are fast on board, right? That can like move 10 inches and can successfully, consistently make those charges, that can stage in the L's outside deployment zones and then can push to your opponent's expansion objective or push from your deployment zone to your own expansion objective is going to be incredibly strong. And just like keeping your opponent off balance, because we know that basically every primary objective has 4 points for holding out of deployment zone objectives. So being able to depress your opponent's primary score by just flipping that objective over and over and potentially making it more difficult for them to perform actions on the objective is going to be very important. So we will see.
Yeah, the enhancement we're going to talk about here is mind-blowingly good, but the detachment rule is enemy within, and this allows you at the end of your opponent's fight phase for friendly, unengaged Pure Drain Genestealers to be placed into strategic reserve, which what I quite like about that is a lot of the time you will be throwing out your Genestealers, and almost always you'll connect. They're very fast, they get up the board very quickly, and they're very deadly. If you charge the right thing, they just kill it and are unengaged. And then should they make it through your opponent's turn, you just take them off the board and leave them on for a threat, a sword of Damocles to hang over your opponent's head for later.
What I like about it is when you have
very nice.
Pure Strains, they have Infiltrate.
That's just like such a good little I don't know, piece of utility. Just being able to take like 3x5 Pure Strains and be like, I don't know, even if I'm not just like charging and clearing your screens on turn 1, I could just use these guys for utility to up down.
So normally what happens early on in the game is that you've got your Pure Strains basically positioned at each of the objectives to kind of go either on the objective or ready to pounce on anything that comes there. All they now need to do is wait until your next wave of things arrives, so your neophytes or your acolytes or some vehicles, and then all of a sudden they go, right, you guys have got this.
Yep.
There's no enemies within immediate range. We're off. We'll see you later.
Go back to
we'll go back underground.
And
we'll pop up later where the game needs us. And this combines beautifully with the fact that you've got loads of other mechanisms of bringing units in unusual ways,
correct,
like redeploying units. So this is just a great combo into
Agreed.
an already very dynamic army.
Yep, spot on. Tell me about... So I want you to tell me about this enhancement, because you're the GSC player, and this is amazing.
This is really cool. So there's an enhancement called Mark of the Star Children. This is an upgrade enhancement, which means you can give it to a unit. You have to give it to Pure Strain Genestealers. It has a bunch of abilities. It gives you +1 toughness. So all of a sudden, your Genestealers that used to die quite easily to bolt guns are...
Toughness 5.
33% harder to kill, right? You have a 4-up save.
Wow.
Even harder to kill again, and you have +1 strength. So you've got strength and toughness 5, and a better save.
Yeah.
So
I'm curious as to how much the +1 save there really matters at all, because I think we are like entering the edition of like AP1 shooting, because now it's like relevant, right? Rather than previously where it was basically just worthless. You were always shooting into cover, so AP1 was just AP0 with extra steps. So you almost might as well just bring AP0 and have a higher attack volume. But AP1 being like much more relevant now means that you're almost always on your 5+ invuln save. So you're like, all right. If you could stack this with existing cover, sure, I get it. But I think for the most part, the save characteristic isn't going to be that big of a deal. It is good because like primarily these guys are used to clear screens, and so they do end up fighting a lot of enemies with AP0 melee attacks. So it is good in that context. So being able to like hit a 10-man, leave a couple guys alive, and not lose a Genestealer on the crackback is helpful. But I don't know how big of a deal that is. That said, +1 toughness, good against strength 4 anti-infantry shooting. Also like sort of medium infantry clear, heavy bolter equivalents like strength 5 AP1 is going to be much more difficult to have a tougher time killing them as well. And then of course +1 strength in the melee attack is huge. 4 to 5 is big for killing utility units because a lot of them are T4, so going to winding on 3s is like a massive. So I don't know, that seems pretty good. I don't know if it's like the most transformative change of all time, but it does seem pretty solid.
Immediately a great unit. This is absolutely the unit you're going
to. It is just the Broodlord, who I don't think changes, or not the Broodlord, the Patriarch. The Broodlord is the tiered version. Who I don't think he goes to T6. He already has a 4+ save, so he doesn't care about that. His mana take goes from 6 to 7, 6, 7. It's kind of whatever. He's fishes for devastating typically anyway. So I don't know if it's that matters that much for that guy. There's also like an open question of whether or not I pulled up his data sheet, but I didn't actually show it. Oh, he goes to T6. Yeah, he goes to 6. That doesn't matter though because he's an attached character. They'll just use the T5 for the rest of the unit. There's also an open question of whether or not enhancements on a unit affect the character. It seems the implication is that they do, but it's not confirmed. It could be that they don't, so we're not 100% sure. So, yeah. There's no, like, interesting character attachments, unfortunately, for Pure Strains. It's literally just that guy. I keep doing that.
Hello, and
stop it.
Going to join your Patriarch too.
Correct.
So you have multiple units of small 5-man Pure Strains. They can hop around, they can deep strike, they can re-deep strike, and you have your big killer unit of Genestealers with this upgrade, the Patriarch in it, devastating wounds, advance and charging, messing up anything they hit. That is a great unit.
And indeed, and the way with the new list construction works with the detachment points, that's all you would need. 2 units of 5, 1 unit of 10, and a Patriarch. Which, I mean, in all honesty, most Genestealer Cult armies take 1 or 2 units of 5 Genestealers already, and many still take a Patriarch. And so you don't have to.
Somebody's going to take that to mean that you have to have characters in detachments to take them. For sure. Somebody's going to be like, it's confirmed. Detachments have force organization charts.
Far to activate all the portions of this detachment.
Yep. Yeah.
The thing too is that this is an upgrade, and I don't think they really touched on that. So depending on how expensive it is, if you have floating points, you can put it on all of your Pure Strains. This could just be on every single Pure Strain in your army. And I hope that the upgrades are not like wildly expensive, right? So that there's like a reason to take them in multiples, and I think that would be very cool.
The stratagem, we're going to cover 2 here. What's the first one?
So the first one's Lurk and Strike.
Oh,
this is effectively, you can make a fallback move with one of your Genestealer units and then still charge later on.
Yeah. So one of the things that will happen, you launch out your Genestealers, people are like, oh wow, that's going to kill any infantry piece that it touches. I'm going to ram with a Rhino and try and keep it in place. And then for 1 command point, you get to avoid that pitfall.
Yeah,
it's really good.
What does it
you
do?
Launch out your Genestealers
and still charge later on.
Yeah. So one of the things,
make a fallback move with one of your Genestealer units and then still charge later on.
Yeah. So one of the things.
And they're fast moving as well, so you can move your Genestealer
fallback
unit.
And charge.
It combos quite
Very
nicely as well with
useful
the fact that you've got that detachment to a combat.
Yeah,
so that's really strong. The next one you've got there is Crawling Horror. This is a great ability.
So this is 1 command point. Once again, I mentioned it previously in another one where you're not enhancing your detection range.
I'm calling it now, chat. This is going to be the most mistimed stratagem in all of 11th edition. So many people are going to go like, oh, you're going to target me? -6 detection range. And you're going to be like, my brother in Christ, start of your fucking movement phase. This is not a reactive ability.
Of your opponent, as in being able to interact with them from further away. You're impacting your opponent's ability to interact with you and your detection range when hidden. So this is the start of your opponent's movement phase.
Yeah, so you basically declare it before the attacking player moves any models. So they will know what your detection range is before they move to attack you. If you go to shooting and you go, la-di-da, I'm going to -6 detection range, you can't shoot me, you can't do that. No, you're supposed to tell your opponent beforehand, before they move anything.
Pure Strain Genestealer unit, your unit has a -6 detection range until the end of the turn. That means they have Lone Operative 9.
Yeah, so that's great.
Wild, this is so powerful.
Unless your opponent has a way of increasing your detection range, so if they've got Pathfinders or
the other
something
interesting
like that,
thing is that there's kind of a synergy between these two effects, the Mark of the Star Children and the detection range thing, because the fewer units that can get within that 9-inch bubble to actually attack these guys, the more chances that the pure strains have for that improved those improved defensive characteristics to matter, right? I was just like considering, if I had, if I know you're going back to a 9-inch detection range and I have to get models within 9, and you're probably, this is almost certainly on the unit that's like on your expansion objective. They've like scouted, and then they've run up to the expansion objective, or they infiltrate. I think they infiltrate on the expansion objective, and they're hidden. And at the start of the movement phase, you like look and you're like, oh, you have some fast movers. I'm gonna -9 or -6 detection range. That means that instead of like my opponent being able to like run up a transport or something and shoot me with the guys inside, or like run up a vehicle and be able to shoot, you're probably like limited to these really fast light units, like land speeders and stuff like that. Your opposing infiltrator units that can shoot these pure strains, and that the fewer units and the lighter weapons that attack these guys, the more relevant these profiles are. So most of these like light skirmishing units are like, there's a lot of like strength 5 weapons, which means the +1 toughness matters a lot more. There's a lot of AP 0, which means the +1 save matters a lot more. And I think it's going to be interesting, because I think there is the potential that you just have a really obnoxious unit of Pure Straight Genestealers, just like sitting on an objective that you just -9, your opponent can't really profitably engage with them. And if they try to, they just lose that unit that they tried to for free, which is kind of cute.
But if they haven't, this can make what was previously going to be a dead Genestealer unit very safe.
Yeah, completely safe. Now, what I love about this is that, of course, you can combo off a bunch of detection range-like mechanics in order to make things suitable. In a lot of exchanges, it will require a unit's ability and then a stratagem to get +3, then +3 again onto the detection range, to just get it back to where it was and where it started.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of hoops you have to jump through to be able to attack this unit again from range. And this is, I think, it's so fantastic.
Pathfinders are still going to
This is one of the ways I love.
Pathfinders are going to fuck them up. Whereas that, just scout forward and shoot these fuckers right off the table.
You got that big hammer unit we were talking about, the 10 with the
Advanced
Patriarch,
acquisition
sending it
Pathfinders
into a flank. The flank collapses, people evacuate just in case they don't kill it. And then, you hit the detection range. You'd be like, oh, you ran away? And what does this trigger? The start of your opponent's movement phase. Do you want to run away from my super deadly crazy unit? Because if you do, you can't shoot me, because I just spent the command point.
But the other thing about that,
do you stay or do you go?
Well, the other thing is that potentially, if they're trying to move forward and get within that 9 to shoot you, you'll be able to heroically intervene.
Exactly.
You're going to be able to kind of attack them. It's just brilliant. But that also amazingly combines again with the army special rule, which
maybe I'm misremembering the heroic intervention rules. I thought the heroic intervention, I forget where it was showed off. Fuck. I thought heroic intervention let you 6-inch charge if they weren't engaged. You could do a normal charge if you were engaged, right? Or you could pay 2 to 6-inch charge on anything. Where did they show that off? Somebody help me. Where's the picture? Is that an Emperor's Children? No. I can't remember. Yeah, it's a 6-inch or anything? Yeah, okay. So I think that expecting to get a heroic intervention off of this effect is kind of a pipe dream.
Yes. That if they decided not to shoot you, you can just pick the
Pick
unit
them
up and put it down again wherever you
Yep.
want next turn. This is a great toolbox of stuff for Genestealer players.
I have to say, all three of these are absolutely blowing my mind with the possibilities.
The
for
Neophyte one seems like kind of, I don't know. Okay, I guess. What did they talk about detachment points though? These are all one detachment point. They can be combined with many of the interesting options from Codex Genestealer cults. You can combine Xenocult Masters with Brood Brother Auxilia. Which seems pretty good. Outlander Claw in with the Heroes detachment. Okay. Well, fair enough, I guess. We did. I think that the live streams have really contextualized how I rate, or I expect to see the detachment points come out, because we saw some very interesting detachments come out at 3 detachment points. Ceramite Sentinels and Aspect Host were the big ones that came out at 3 DP, which is like, that feels like a lot. I don't know. Ceramite Sentinels is pretty good and pretty well rounded, pretty wide. Affects a wide margin of things. But Aspect Host coming at 3 was like, that's interesting. It does explicitly only affect Aspect Warriors, so in the Avatar of Cain. So that kind of blows my mind. But I think I would more often than not expect, I think if there's a detachment that you're like, man, this would be broken if it was 2 DP and you could take another thing with it, I think I would expect it to be 2D or 3 DP at that point. I don't necessarily know if we're going to see as many things be 2 detachment points that is interesting. Yeah. So we'll see. Assume any detachment points will be adjusted. Yeah. The Aspect Host thing is kind of like wild, because already they were like explicitly like, hey, we want to make it so that the detachments that affect only a specific group of units are going to be 2 detachment points. And then you can expand the units that your detachment is affecting. And then they're like, Aspect Host affects 2 unit keywords, 3. And you're like, all right, man, I don't know. We'll see. They'll make Gladius 2? Oh my god, I'm gonna kill myself. God damn it. Should we talk, speaking of Aspect Host, chat, should we talk about Eldar? The article that came out today? I don't think we have anything else to talk about with Genestealer cults. Genestealer cults look great. The new stuff looks awesome. I think the character stuff looks good. I think the Pure Strange Genestealer stuff looks good. The Neophyte stuff looks probably very useful, but I think it's going to be more of a objective holdy thing, which is obviously less flashy. So we'll see. Games Workshop's really scared of Eldar. Yeah, somebody was like posting it was like, oh, it wouldn't be a new edition if their Eldar weren't broken. And I do wonder if they're like trying to dodge that narrative. I don't know if they care that much, to be honest, but anyway. Recon element going to be 2? I hope not. Well, I think with the changes to coherency, assuming that 20-man units don't get like special treatment, I think the changes to coherency are going to be kind of deleterious to Recon Guard. I don't know if it's enough to like stop the army from being useful, but the fact that you can't string and it removes a lot of like potential combat movement and slingshots and stuff, is a big deal, right? It forces you to like basically just deploy these big bricks instead of being able to like string your guys and use courageous diversion to like give mass -1 to hits and stuff. So we'll see how it ends up going. Will 3 of 1 detachment point be worth it? I think on release I'm gonna say likely no, but once we see more one detachment point detachments come out, I think there is the potential that it could. It feels to me like the 1 DP detachments are kind of they're very like they're very focused, and there's not enough of them to in most cases to build like a super concentrated army. So I don't know right now, but if like we see if it like go a year down the road or something, and every faction's gotten 1 to 2 more 1 detachment point detachments, I think there very reasonably could be a list where you're like, I have 3 units that my 1 detachment points affect, so I'm gonna take 3 of each, and some random utility, and that's my army, and then I have very concentrated buffs on each one of those. I think there's the potential that is the case, but at release it doesn't seem like anyone can really do that. I think like I don't know, there were a couple that we talked about maybe could do it, but it feels like most of them are going to be just worse than having a normal detachment and then maybe one additional bonus. All right, let's talk about some Eldar.
Welcome to another Warhammer 40,000.
It was a minute 30 last. Let's go to a minute 30 to see what we get.
Attachment. This is about Aeldari vehicles.
Hey, so we nailed it.
In Drops 2024, we had a version of this detachment.
So this Armored Warhost is already released and digital release, which is atrocious.
So Aeldari vehicles will just get assault. Just
if it turns into a one detachment,
the difference to call out here really is that because this is now a smaller detachment, previously you had to commit to this fully, right? This was your only detachment.
Yes.
So you were like, I guess I'm having an Eldar tank army.
Yeah.
Whereas now this is one of the tools, one of the detachments you can bring to the table.
Exactly
You can still have things that bolster your infantry or your jet bikes or something else.
Yeah, so it makes a lot more sense of this ideology to, you're taking a package, maybe 2 to 3 fire prisms, some of the new Corsair or Viper-like small skirmishing piecing vehicles, and then, usual Falcon and or Wave Serpent equivalents. And this just activates all of that in such new and beautiful ways.
Yeah. Let's have a look at some of the enhancements and the stratagems. We've got one there, which is the Spirit Stone of Ryleth, which you can give to an Eldar Psyker and effectively makes them like a Bone Singer, I suppose.
This is really cool because this is like all the goodness of a Tech Marine put on an Eldari Psyker. And this doesn't say infantry Psyker as well, so that could be a Sky Runner, could be on a bike, Wind Rider, sorry. While this unit is within 3 of a friendly Aeldari vehicle, they will have Lone Operative.
That's immediately great.
Fantastic. Yeah. And in addition, in your movement phase at the start or end of this unit's move, you can heal D3 wounds off an Aeldari vehicle. I think this is actually really cool.
Yeah, so you can imagine this on a Farseer or something, or any of your kind of Psykers moving around the backfield, healing those units that have started to take some damage. So if you find your fire prisms in a shootout with some enemy predators or something, you can heal them back up.
Exactly right. Or you do this on the front foot and you have, a Farseer or a Warlock on a bike sitting, aggressively placed in the middle of the table, with a...
So this is just the same as we had previously. We don't really need to talk about exactly how this works. It would be cool if they released that. They added Wraithseers back in and we're just like, oh, I don't know. Here's the thing. Oh, I guess they're not characters, so they couldn't take this. Just kidding. Skyrunners is probably the way to go, but it's exactly the same as we have in the current version.
They could do an action.
Correct.
The tank kind of is there with your counterpunch unit, so it's just a lot of utility in that ability alone.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I think this is really cool.
We've also got stratagems, obviously there. One we're going to look at is vectored engines, and this effectively means that if your unit has fallen back, one of your vehicles, they can still shoot.
Still get to shoot.
Neat.
Great ability. It's going to be really handy when you get right into the mix.
Okay.
And put your blast weapon into the unit that tried to engage you, right?
Exactly. So people trying to line up something that will shut you down. And exactly right, because when you fall back so far away. Yeah, and depending on the detachment pointing of the...
Oh, here's an interesting change, actually. The new version doesn't require that you fly, so you can fall back with Warwalkers. That's like something, I guess. That's not massive, but there you go. Fall back, shoot, good strat. I don't have much else to say here. And assault typically tends to be good.
But this one, Rangers and Shroud Runners, when they're selected to shoot, enemy units will have +6.
Let's go. We'll just go back a little bit. This sounds like it is going over here.
Really good in that detachment. This is one that I could see as an ancillary force going along that, depending on what the detachment points come out as. But this one, Rangers and Shroud Runners, when they're selected to shoot, enemy units will have +6 detection range. That's a fantastic ability. It means that you can be far further away and still impacting the midboard.
That's actually great. That's phenomenal for Shroud Runners. If you could duel this with the Corsair Coterie, where you can hypercharge Shroud Runners, or Wind Rider Host, which feels pretty reasonable. This actually feels like it's probably a very solid combo.
Your opponent's deployment zone whilst being harder to
hit. Can the 2-man Warwalkers be healed? That's a good question, actually. So there is a little verbiage difference where you can heal models versus units, And I believe that the distinction will be that when you heal a model, it will not regenerate models back to other models back to the unit. But when you heal a unit, it has the ability to put models back in. And so far, basically all of the wound removal from the current edition, besides reanimation protocols, says you pick a model and heal it, which means generally you wouldn't be able to put models back in. And I think that's how basically all of the current incarnation of Tech Marine, Tech Priest stuff is going to work. So you'll pick a wounded guy in the Warwalker squad and remove damage from it, but you won't be able to go over its wound cap. Whereas if it said heal the unit, you would go over the other guy's wound cap and regenerate the next guy. So I doubt that you're going to be able to. I doubt that any of these, the current existent repair mechanics for vehicles, will be able to regenerate entire vehicles back in. Unless otherwise explicitly specified.
Because this is going to combo with some pretty amazing abilities.
Yeah, got some other great abilities in there as well. The first one we'll look at is Camouflage Snipers. This is something you can give to a ranger unit, and basically allows them to
put fucking Illic Nightshade back in if you want Rangers to be good. Come on, guys. Or Amelin Shadow Guide. Where's justice for Amelin Shadow Guide? All the Ranger characters were removed, and then they're like, oh, guys, actually, we wanted Rangers to be a combat unit again. Well, why'd you make them Strength 4 and have no bonuses to attack? What the fuck? I do think that the Ignore Cover Rapid Fire strat from Corsair Coterie is actually kind of cool on big units of Rangers, and there's maybe a chance that that's a combo here. If you can be like, I'm plus 6 inches of detection range, I'm already going to be in if I'm detecting you, even at plus 6, I'm likely to be in rapid fire range. And then I'm shooting potentially 20 ignore cover 2 damage shots. Maybe I can clear a 5-man unit, but it's still very unlikely. I don't know. You just need to make them better at shooting if you want them to be doing stuff. they're so mid.
Shoot while staying hidden.
Give Rangers
anti-infantry. You have a reactive
that would probably be
move
very strong.
as the data sheet ability for Rangers, so you're going to be able to move away and continue to stay hidden. Like I said, trying to keep that unit ahead of your opponent's pressure, and you're going to be able to shoot and deal damage and avoid reprisal if you're a savvy player.
Yeah, those Ranger units
plus point Phoenix Swords. I think Illic Nightspear was really cheap, right? He was 65 points. You got played by himself a lot because he was so cheap.
Are very fragile when they get
or
caught,
you could take him at 10
very
ranges,
low toughness, not very good armor save, but they've got a bunch of tools to help them stay alive, and this just puts another tool in the tool belt
in your opponent's play. And of course, Rangers are really fit for so many different purposes at the moment, and the fact that now they can shoot, be safe after they've shot, while also, potentially on other turns, controlling or corralling your opponent's movement and, doing actions, scoring objectives.
And still one of the cheapest units in the Eldar army as well. So it's not a huge points investment.
Yeah.
Right. To kind of add quite a lot of Rangers into your army. You can have 2 or 3 units without feeling like you've dented the damage output of the force.
You won't have had to compromise the spine, so to speak, the heart of the list.
A couple of other things to talk about there. We've got 2 stratagems. Eldritch Suppression is the first one, and this is a way of triggering Battle Shock onto enemy units from your Rangers and from your Shroud Runners.
I like this a lot because I just mentioned a bunch of utility ways to generate value from your Rangers and Shroud Runners. This is just adding a brand new way as well. So for 1 command point in your shooting phase, when one of those key
command point for a 50% chance in an effect, I don't think is a real command point.
The Shroud Runners has shot. Select one enemy unit hit by those attacks. They'll have to take a battle shock. If they lost any models from that activation, they'll have to take a battle shock at -1 instead. And we've already mentioned plenty of times in these faction focuses, battle shock is so much more important because you don't automatically unbattle shock in your command phase.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of great utilities for this. So one of the things that's quite nice and worth calling out is that you get to use this stratagem after you've shot.
Yes.
So you get to kind of fire the Ranger unit, see if you kill an enemy models. You go, I did kill one.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity to use this. Trigger this ability, and then go take a battle shock at -1.
Yeah, I guess that is good. There's also going to be some cases where you're like, I really don't want that guy to heroic an enemy, and so I want the chance to battle force a battle shock check on them. Definitely not useless, but it is definitely emblematic of the power level of stratagems inside the 1 detachment point detachments, where it's very limited in utility.
immediately good because Battle Shock's great, it stops people scoring, but particularly good if, for example, you've got an enemy, a Banshee unit that's running towards them, you want to avoid counter charges or overwatches into your Scorpions or something like that, and you go, right, I'm going to stop that. None of that, none of your stratagems. The Ranger unit supporting the Aspect unit as it advances.
Exactly right. So many ways to interact.
If only you could play this alongside Aspect Host chat. Wouldn't that be cool to put these two things together?
2 command points, charge your opponent within 6 inches, even if they didn't. Like having the chance to turn this off, I like it a lot. And the fact that you said the timing, the way this comes in is after until it has shot, you get to like look at their leadership, and then did you kill a unit, and then whether it's worth using. You know, is this going to be a 1/3 failure rate, 2/3 failure rate, over half or 50%? You'll know when this is good to use.
Yeah, I think that's potentially like a game-winning ability.
It is.
There's loads of really great combos there. Last up, we've got Casting Back the Veil. This is another thing that interacts with the detection range and the hidden rule. Your army rule effectively is giving +6 detection range for your rangers and shroud runners. This allows them to pass it on to another friendly unit.
Correct, exactly. It perfectly said. So 1 CP,
that's
once
pretty
you
good
have a shot with your
version
+6
of that.
detection.
It's not like a choose something within 12, and I guess it like requires that the rangers like get farther forward. But as long as the rangers have line of sight to something and can shoot it, then you could just apply their own detection range improvement to something else. The part that's funny to me here is that it is hit by the attacks, not targeted. And so if you're shooting almost definitionally, if you're shooting a hidden unit, they're going to be in cover, and so you're -1 to hit, and there's a greater chance you miss with 5 ranged attacks, or maybe even less, depending on like how many models are in the unit. It does trigger after you shoot, but you have probably already moved with the assumption you have this ability. And if you miss with that unit, it's a nightmare. It's so bad. Which is kind of funny.
Range on your rangers or shroud runners, you will pass that benefit on to other units in your army. Perfectly acceptable. Good ability.
Right. So, and if you've got rangers in your army already, this is a great way to...
So many players already are taking like 2-3 units of rangers in their army. They can just take this detachment and get a huge amount of benefits in doing so.
Excellent. Right, we're moving on to the Harlequin portion of the stratagems. First one, Twilight's Flickers. This is an ability that basically gives your army stealth. Yes,
so friendly Harlequin units just have stealth. This comes with the acrobatic tag, as in you cannot take any other detachment that also have this tag, which you'll hear more about when we talk about the next one, which also has the same tag. So you can't really combo both of these together. But stealth is just a great ability to have on Harlequins because you already come with a invulnerable save. You are only toughness 3. They're going to already make great use of the new hidden rules, because essentially if your opponent has an army that packs guns and they can shoot at the Harlequins, usually the Harlequins go away.
That's true.
So having a chance to have a few left could be significant.
This that's only affects the infantry, right? Because all the vehicles already have stealth. I'm gonna fact check myself on that, but I'm pretty sure Starweavers do. Nope. All right. Well, I'll go fuck myself, I guess. I know that Voidweavers do, right? I'm not crazy. Am I crazy? No. Okay. The Voidweavers do. It's just that the Starweavers don't, I guess. But they have smoke. Okay. That's, I think, maybe what I was thinking of. But I guess you don't have to smoke, so that's nice, I suppose. Seems good.
You can do to keep them alive, because they're very good at winning fights when they get to go first.
Exactly.
They're really not very good at winning fights if they get caught out in the open.
They are usually a one-way trip missile. They're a hunter-killer troop. And if they connect, they usually almost always do the job.
Yeah. Looking at some of the enhancements and the stratagems, first one I'm going to look at is Prelude Performer. This is an enhancement you can give to a character, and it gives that unit...
This is good.
Scout 6 is not a bad ability to have, so you could have theoretically a Troop Master or a Shadow Seer with a full unit of troop just starting 6 inches up the table. We know how fast Harlequins are. If you start 6 inches up the board and you go first, your opponent has to be so deep into their lines to theoretically not be charged. Turn 1.
So you can either threaten all the midfield objectives, or you can go... I'm just going to put pressure immediately onto the enemy unit.
What you do is you tell your opponent, as you're deploying your army, being like, I have a maxed out unit of troop with a deadly character that can scout 6 and charge you turn 1, and then watch them have to deploy their army completely differently.
Yeah.
Weaponize it. Use it against them.
And then last up, we're going to look at...
I wonder if there is utility to the second clause of Scout. Because what they talked about on the live stream is that Scout can be used for a pregame move, or if you don't want to do that, you can actually forego the pregame move to essentially put them into reserve and then deploy them at the end of the deployment step. So you can deploy them seeing where everything is. So you can basically be like, if I don't want the pregame, I could wait until I see where all your infiltrators go, and then deploy this transport, and then like disembark from the transport, move and charge all infiltrating units. I get the tough part is that like knife's head charges are much harder this edition, so that feels maybe less useful. But I'm trying to find ways to make that scout effect worthwhile. It feels so much worse than the pregame move, but we'll see.
Debating performance. This is a stratagem for this detachment, and it effectively allows you to use objectives secured.
That's stratagem rules.
Yes, so objectives secured may be something you guys haven't heard of just quite yet. We have a colloquial term for maintaining a control of an objective called stickying an objective to your faction, as in like I've planted a flag on that, and this always had various different ways of being said in different rules.
Yeah, lots of codexes
editions.
had something that was similar to it, and they might have been slightly different.
Yeah, correct. Now that's all been rolled into secured. So for one command point, a unit of troop at the end of your movement phase, which is the best timing, by the way, it's the best timing to secure an objective. You get to move onto that. You get to even advance onto it. You get to do as you please, fall back onto it, because at the end of your movement phase, and then you get to maintain control of that objective ongoing until your opponent stops you.
And what's great about the timing on that one is because you don't want your Harlequin unit to be out in the open, or even really on an objective, like even with a cover. So you can jump out of a transport, finish your move on that objective, tag the objective, move off the objective, and charge an enemy unit.
Move.
They've already done the main job they have, which is to grab the objective, and they've stopped an enemy unit getting it too.
So I think what's interesting about this, and I'm interested to like look at the existing examples of this effect. I know that there is one from this one, which is usable in movement phase rather than end of movement phase. And obviously we don't have like a huge confirmation of how objective control works in 11th. But in the current incarnation of the rules, assuming that those rules transfer over, end of movement phase is when LOC is determined on an objective, which means that you as the active player could sequence this stratagem to be used after you determine LOC, which means you can just move the Harlequin troop with no one existing on the objective already, and then you obsec it, and then you do whatever you want, which is phenomenally powerful. Just being able to like tow into the troop unit and then just obsec the objective without having to hold it for a round means that even if you get shot off, you will retain control. Now, obviously, there's a lot of core rules that could change that should prevent that interaction from happening, but in any case, that would be very, very strong.
And they're fighting.
Combos extremely well with the enhancement we talked about as well, where you can just scout onto an objective, turn one, secure it, and then move off it and make it your opponent's problem to go and stop you, while completely maintaining your unit just in a stage position up the table. Yeah, really cool.
Great. We're going to look at another Harlequin detachment. This is Fateful Performance, and this has an ability that is probably familiar to Harlequin players. This basically means that you can charge move through enemy models.
This is huge in the new way that charge mechanics work. Previously in the edition, you would just be like, this unit is going to charge at this unit, and then you would roll the dice and see if you made it. Now, you say, this unit is going to charge, and then you roll the dice and decide where you want to go. And if you're telling me your opponent can't screen off and control where this unit is going to go, that just means you have all the ability to aim high with your charge rolls and go for the high rolls and be like, well, if I roll a 12, I can catch anything within this. I'm just going to get into combat with whatever I like. Because none of your screens or barriers or things you put in the way are going to change anything here. And you just roll the dice and go where you please. It is a very powerful ability.
This feels like something that combos really nicely with maybe a transport to kind of push up early in the first turn. In the second turn, you pile out.
Can you kind of secure before Overwatch? Assuming that the rules stay the same as they do now, the implication is yes. Because they both trigger at the end of the phase. And so you could just, the way it could currently work is that you say, I have an end of phase ability. Do you have any end of phase effects? Your opponent says, I'm going to Overwatch. And then you go, okay, I'm going to secure. And then you say, I'm going to, I secure first before the Overwatch occurs. That's the current rules, although obviously different formats play it differently because the game is a mess and there's no consistency, but it is what it is.
the absolute maximum limit of your potential movement in front of enemy units.
Yeah, moving
and
over
then
enemies with
that-
charging is like
roll
it
big.
seems like a thing
roll
that's like, oh man, this is going to be so helpful, but it's like only helpful in a couple situations when you don't have any control over when you're going to be able to use it. It's not an activated ability. It's like a thing that you have passively, and so sometimes it'll be useful and sometimes it'll be just a dead drop on your datasheet. And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's that wild of an effect even when in the times where it's happening in a very useful way. I have a suspicion that this pipe dream of like, oh, we're going to string and like perfectly body block our models so that your charging models can't get through or whatever is going to be sort of not like a real thing because you're just going to shoot those things. Like, I don't understand. I'm shooting you with a bunch of pistols and shuriken cannons and there's death jesters and fucking skyweavers and shit. I'm gonna kill that guy. What are you talking about? You're gonna like perfectly body block me off with your one like your little 0.9-inch gaps or whatever. I don't know. Not to mention the fact that Harlequin troops, you can charge through engagement range now, obviously, but in Harlequin troopers are 25 mil bases, so they're really small and hard to screen anyway. So it's like I don't know. It's not to say this is useless and it will never be helpful, but like. It's so rarely useful. I don't know. Spending a detachment plan on it seems like sort of worthless.
Big, aim high. I love it.
Speaking of rolling high, you do have an enhancement that helps you do that. You've got
nice.
something you can give to the Troop Master, which is called A Foot in the Future, which lets you re-roll the charge roll. So this combo is really nice.
What did Foot in the Future do last edition? It was like unhinged, right? Was it when you advance, you automatically win 6 or something? Because I remember Foot in the Future being literally ubiquitous on every single Harlequin Troopmaster ever. Oh yeah, here we go. Each time you advance, do you not make an advance roll? You move. I'm sorry, chat. This is gonna be like off center here. You move D3 plus 3 in addition instead. Each time you charge, add 6 to the results. Add 6 to your charge roll. Bro, 9th edition was a different time. What the fuck? It's how far the mighty have fallen, chat. That has turned into reroll charge rolls. That's so fucking funny. Oh my god. I don't know. That's very that tickles me to no end.
With the army ability.
Exactly right. Doubles down. The way you want to use this is you want to get as close to your opponent's screening unit as possible and then roll that charge. And then you'll have a second chance to roll that big charge with this Foot in the Future
second
ability.
Chance to roll snake eyes and fail too, so that's pretty fun.
If you roll low, you just go into the screen that was right in front of you anyway.
Yep. And then last up, we have a series of stratagems. The one we're going to look at is called Deceptive Feint. This is a reactive move.
So one thing I want to point out here, and I didn't put this in my video this morning because I actually wasn't sure if it was the case or not. But on watching the live stream, it seems like most denial areas have been moved to 8 inches rather than 9. Like scouting units, it seemed like scouted 9 inches or 8 inches away from enemies rather than 9. And that's a very difficult thing to sort of be able to perceive on a top-down like live stream camera, especially when the players aren't like, there's no player mics or anything. We can't talk about, like, listen to what they're talking about. It looked like they were measuring 8 inches away, and this ability is reactive with the triggers 8 inches away. I would not be surprised, because we did discuss it yesterday, that in the current reading of the rules, if you have a 9-inch trigger on your reactive effect, in order to charge from outside that, you need to roll a 10, right? If you use the current mechanics. I would not be surprised to see all of those reactive effects change to 8 inches to be a little bit more flexible. There's also an implication that a lot of them will trigger off of ingress moves. And so ingressing 9 inches away to, or 8 inch within 9 inches, so 8.1 away. But if they have a reactive effect that triggers at 9, they could react to it. And it definitely seems to me like a lot of these are probably going to change to 8 inches. And this is a good indication of that, in my opinion.
Fantastic. This is one of my favorite abilities for all of Aeldari. So this is a 1 command point. Your opponent's movement phase when an enemy unit ends and move within 8 inches of an unengaged Harlequin's infantry unit, you will get to make a D3 plus 3 reactive move. Now, why this is key is because anytime you add a reactive move into the Aeldari faction, because of the battle focus tokens that they have, 2 of which give you other abilities and ways to move out of sequence, whenever you add a third one into that, the magnifier of your opponent's mental gymnastics to negotiate.
What could he do now if you've got you could go forward or backwards?
Right now, a lot of the 9-inch ingresses like trigger on like normal, advance, or fallback moves. Just to clarify what I was saying earlier. So right now, the 9-inch ingress stuff, I don't believe will trigger off stuff like ingresses. However, ingresses are described as being moves inside the rules. They are called ingress moves now when you deep strike or use strategic reserve. And if we look, right, this stratagem does not say end a normal advance or fallback move. It says end a move, which theoretically would also cover ingress moves. So I would assume that these work on ingresses, which lets you reactive move to 6-inch deep strikes, which is probably, playing demons, the biggest question I get. People constantly try to fucking reactive move their stupid commie weapon lieutenant away from like Bellicor when he shows up next to them. And I'm like, no. You put that guy right down. I'm not making a normal move. I'm about to charge you. And they go, what? You can do that? And I go, yeah. I'm surprised you don't know this. This is a very common interaction. But it's funny that it happens like at least once a tournament. People try to react to 6-inch deep strikes. But in 10th edition, or 11th edition, excuse me, it does seem like you will be able to do that. We'll see. We'll wait for confirmation, but it seems like that's happening. Going to be the case.
Sideways, spin on the spot, whatever they like, and you just see this kaleidoscope of like, how do I avoid them doing all these things? Just goes through your brain, and anytime you can add another such ability is exceptional. And what's crazy about this, and what is awesome about this, is that this isn't your entire detachment.
Oh yeah, Adam actually mentioned something interesting. So you can battle focus react to shooting, which we haven't discussed in the context of transports or vehicles, right? And I think people are probably not prepared for this, but I think Eldar vehicles with reactive effects, like reacting to shooting, is actually kind of a huge deal. As long as you don't one-shot them, which of course is very is likely in a lot of cases. They've announced it, or there's a few pieces of information that we know because of the live stream yesterday. First of all, you only have to tow into terrain to see it. So you can be 1 millimeter inside terrain, be shot back, and then move 1 millimeter away. And your battle focus has extricated you from line of sight in most cases, right? Amazing. So if I'm a fire prism sitting in terrain in my deployment zone, and my opponent shoots back at me, they get one shot and I battle focus out of the terrain, right? The other thing is that pivots are entirely free. So regardless of how far I roll, as long as I can get the shortest, while pivoting around my central axis, as long as I can get the shortest distance or dimension, excuse me, of my model outside of that terrain feature, I can escape from it. So I don't know if people are necessarily really there's a lot of terrain and movement interactions that I think Eldar come out on top of, in the best version of. Like Starshadow Arsenal also has this interaction where a Doomsday Arc is going to move 6 inches in response to shooting by rolling a 1 on a reactive move. But I think a Fire Prism is going to be able to do the same thing, where you're Fire Prisms front into a terrain feature to get line of sight. Your opponent shoots it and it spins halfway around and then moves 2 inches out and is outside the terrain feature. Because it basically gains the equivalent of 5 or 6 inches of movement off of that 2-inch roll. So that's not necessarily obviously cogent to this discussion, but it is going to affect how a lot of Eldar play, and I do think the Eldar vehicle play is going to be stronger for that reason.
Not just left with 2 enhancements, 1 detachment ability, and 3 stratagems. This can be a supplementary force attached to many others. I love how some of these work with some of the ones we've already covered, because you can see a very aggressive Harlequin force with an armored host, an armored host being the anti-tank long-range firepower while you're pushing forward, pressuring your opponent with scouting ranges, so you're going to be able to move going.
It is important to note, I believe, that the armored war host will affect Starweavers, right? All your Harlequin vehicles will also gain the effect because they are Aeldari keyworded. Here we go. So you can double stack like the -1 to hit detachment with this. Now you're taking 2 1-point detachments. I don't know if that's going to be very strong, but there are going to be cases where you can overlap these effects too. So Adam was saying that these are like working in concert, but they actually do just literally overlap in their abilities.
Going through modeled Harlequin units, I think this combos really well.
Or you could imagine a ranger-led force that's given covering fire to Harlequins as they advance. So we've already talked about abilities that kind of...
We can't imagine all of those. We'll see if they're good. I don't know, chat. I don't know. I do think this depends a lot on which detachments are 2 detachment points. There are some... I think this Ranger detachment seems actually unironically very strong. Rangers are already taken in triplicate, essentially. Shroud Runners are an incredibly good unit in some existing detachments. If we see something like a Wind Rider host at 2 points, I think this detachment is immediately good, right? And I think there's also the case, potentially, where there are Harlequin compositions that can slot into an existing detachment that are okay as well. But if we see, I mean, depending on what we see Aeldari be pointed out for detachment points, it's going to change a lot. Let's see if they talk about it. Two no Harlequin detachments means it's easier than ever to slot a unit or 2 into your existing Harlequin army. Go buy Harlequins, please. Give us money, please. Without needing to commit fully to their dedicated detachments. Same goes for Aeldari roster. You should come up with some effective combinations. Yeah, that's literally no information. Thank you so much. Thank you. We couldn't even say concretely that most of the detachments are, or vaguely even, that like most of the detachments are 2 DP, like they usually say. I hope that Eldar aren't just a bevy of 3 DP detachments and like some random one is 2. That would make me sad. You could play, I don't know, Guardian Battle Host at 2 and everything else is 3, and you're like, all right, I'll go fuck myself, I guess. Aspect Host, yeah, with nothing. Yeah, I do wonder if they're a little gun shy because Aspect Host spent so fucking long being at the top of the game. Or like not even, not necessarily Aspect Host, but like various versions of armies very similar to Aspect Host has spent so long being good. And they're just like, never again. From the boot, you get the boot throughout the entire edition. If Wind Rider's 3, you're gonna lose it. Yeah, if Wind Rider's 3, I mean, like I could see it because Wind Rider is really good. Like, it's got so many abilities and stuff. It's not like cutting edge in terms of like current metagame, but who knows what it's gonna look like in the new edition when the ability to deploy things next to your opponent and get through hidden is gonna be more relevant. Who knows? Also, like bikers being able to go through walls at the cost of 2 inches makes them more maneuverable. There's like a bunch of benefits that Wind Rider Host is going to get to play with. It's enormous. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I could see it being 3 with those as the justification, but for the sake of Eldar players, I hope it's 2. And the same goes for like CR Council, Guardian Battle Host, because those detachments are actually like unironically super good. If you could add them into another detachment, that would be awesome. Or Kosar Coterie. That's the other one that I think could be really wild too. We'll see. In the words of Liam, people still don't know how to play into Eldar. It might be the case, chat. Liam did say in the pre interview to that live stream yesterday, he was like, all these changes mean Eldar are dead. And then he won the game. Which was really funny. I think the way the commentators made it sound is that like Liam lost like every single practice game and then won on the day. Which was, although I think the difference was that he went first, whereas Siegler had gone first in every other game and just jailed him. So I don't know, but we'll see. Anyway, chat, I think that's it. I don't think that's all we have to talk about, right? There's no other articles or anything up, so that was all. Aeldari, I think we're definitely going to have to see how many points the detachments are. Genestealer Cult, I'm cautiously optimistic about. Their detachments seem independently kind of great. Oh, there's this new funny Slaanesh guy. We see this guy for Age of Sigmar. So that guy's going in a demon army somewhere to be a herald or something. But I don't know. This guy makes me chuckle. I love his big silly hat. He is the biggest and the silliest hat. Which I don't know. I think encapsulates the absolute degeneracy of Slaanesh very well. Just the silliest man, which is fun. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have anything else to talk about. I think that's about it. Well, there's other new people too. Look at all these. I like they lean a little bit into the aspect of Slaanesh that is gluttony, right? Because Slaanesh is like excess in all of its forms, which could include just eating way too much pizza. Just average Reddit moderator physique right there, chat. We love it. Yeah, I don't know. These are neat. I like these little people in the back too. Just like spooky demonettes. This one's a snake. Well, this one's two snakes stuck together. Spooky. Cool. Yeah, I think that's it for me today. I don't really have anything else to talk about. I'll level with you, chat. I'm fucking exhausted. I between the convention this weekend that I live streamed, and then two like a million faction focused things, and a bunch of sort of video recaps of all of it. We have a lot going on. I have last week as well as sort of stuff working on behind the scenes. I have another like big tournament report coming up for my games at Adepticon last month, or the month before last even. Oh boy, it's very late. As well as another video with Bamboo. Thanks to them for working with me. So that's all coming out within the next week or two. So it should be fun. I don't know. There's gonna be a lot of content being dropped on the channel, so it's gonna be good. I would also, and I might try to get this ball rolling today. We have live stream games on the Twitch channel basically all week. For event finals, we have an event T5S2 pod final coming up tomorrow evening, and then we have Black Crusade Open finals coming up midday Thursday. So two big, Black Crusade Open's like enormous. So that's going to be a big event finals for as we're moving on to the end of the T5S2 season. So that's going to be happening over on Twitch. But I would like to get some games in using as much of the new rules as we have, because I think that would be really interesting, and then I could do some content about it. So I might try to get that done on Twitch. It's difficult finding the time slots to fit games of 40k right now is the downside, and that is unfortunately why I have been a little bit remiss on my Twitch live streams. So. It is what it is. Gonna miss me over at Wagapalooza? Yeah, that's my bad. I just totally fucking double booked myself. I had thought, and I was like, this is really, really stupid. I had literally thought that Concocticon or whatever, Concoction, was like 2 weeks ago. And I don't know why I thought that. I even had it on my calendar. And then I literally was like, oh, I gotta get my army list together like the week before. And I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is in like 2 weeks. I don't have I have an event that weekend. Fuck. So that was totally my bad. I just like totally got the dates wrong, which is unfortunate. I would have loved to have played a GT before the end of the edition. I don't think I will be able to, unfortunately. I have like 1 weekend I'm not live streaming next month, but I don't know if I will have the chance to get out. Obviously, playing in a GT much easier than streaming a GT, but not wildly dissimilar in terms of time investment. And so it is tough to slot those in there. But yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming, all that stuff. And I will see you guys potentially later this evening on Twitch, but also tomorrow. So we'll see you then. Cheers, everybody.